Hello everyone, Alan Sens here, and welcome to this segment on the Manhattan Project. With this video, I really wanted to emphasize the essential qualities of the Manhattan Project. This was the US project that developed the first atomic bomb. And really the main point here is not just to sort of talk you through how that bomb got developed, but really also to impress upon you the magnitude of these types of programs. Developing a nuclear bomb is just not easy. There's a lot involved institutionally, politically, resources, personnel, and money. And so by looking at the Manhattan Project, we also can get a sense of how difficult and challenging an enterprise developing an atomic bomb really can be. Okay, so let's get started. So the primary learning objectives for this video are that by the time we're done, you should be able to explain the origins of the Manhattan Project, and you should understand the structure of the project, and therefore the structure of nuclear programs more generally, including those that are active today. So the origins of the Manhattan Project are actually quite interesting. It was initiated by the action of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in response to receiving the Einstein-Szilard letter, which we talked about in an earlier video. This action led to the creation of something called the Advisory Committee on Uranium in 1939. Now, of course, they're trying to be deliberately obscure here. They don't want to come out and say we're creating an advisory committee to develop the atomic bomb, because you're keeping this a secret. So a lot of these code names were used during the entire project. The Manhattan Project itself was not initially called the Manhattan Project. In 1941, an Office of Scientific Research and Development was created in the United States, and it was that office that in turn created something called the S1 Uranium Committee. And it was under the S1 Uranium Committee that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers formed an organization called the Development of Substitute Materials, which again, a very obscure title. And this was later redesignated the Manhattan District, which is a certain focused component of the Development of Substitute Materials program. And this phrase, Manhattan District, kind of caught on, and eventually the entire atomic bomb project simply became called the Manhattan Project. The project itself was under the direction of this man, Lieutenant General Leslie R. Groves. He was a West Point graduate. He was a graduate of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and served in the construction division and actually presided over the construction of the Pentagon building, that enormous headquarters of the Department of Defense in the United States that's still used to this day. But he was selected then to command the Manhattan Engineering District in 1942 and became the overall military commander of the Manhattan Project. So that's significant right from the very start. The Manhattan Project was a military-directed, military-commanded project. And it was a big project. This is the structure of it. Again, just to emphasize the political institutional character of atomic bomb programs. The Manhattan Project was ultimately under the authority of the President of the United States through the Secretary of War. Here's Groves right here as commander of the Manhattan Project. The district itself was under a junior commander, Colonel Nichols, and then you can see the main components of the Manhattan Project, in particular the Clinton Engineering Works, the Hanford Engineering Works, and of course the most famous element of all, the Los Alamos Research Laboratories. So this is just to demonstrate the important sort of institutional framework under which the atomic bomb was developed. Under political authority, yes, but directed by the military. For the post of scientific director, General Groves selected J. Robert Oppenheimer, a choice which frankly surprised many. Oppenheimer was not known to be politically aligned with the conservative nature of the military, nor was he known to be an efficient leader of large projects. Oppenheimer did not have a Nobel Prize, and therefore there was some concern that he would not have the prestige to direct fellow scientists. But Groves was impressed by Oppenheimer's grasp of the practical aspects of designing and constructing an atomic bomb. Groves knew that it would be vital to have someone who could bring together physicists, chemists, people who were specialists in metallurgy, ordnance, and engineering. And so one of the project scientists, Isidore Rabi, considered the appointment of Oppenheimer what he called, quote, a real stroke of genius on the part of General Groves, who was not considered to be a genius. Here are some of the installations associated with the project. There are a very large number of them, over 30. These are the main ones. I mean, ultimately, the project grew to employ more than 130,000 people, and it cost nearly $2 billion. And if you translated that $2 billion into contemporary money, it would be about $26 billion to run this project. So again, a huge investment of resources, material, people, and money. The key elements that we'll probably come back to in the course, the Manhattan District headquarters, the Clinton Engineering Works were in Oak Ridge, and of course the key to much of it at the Los Alamos Laboratory. Interestingly, you'll see that the project also involved facilities in Canada at Trail and Chalk River, and of course the British were also involved. These were the three countries, Canada, the United States, and Great Britain, that were involved in the project, but most of the work was done in the United States using this infrastructure. And of course it was all done under a veil of secrecy. This was a large sign that greeted both those who were arriving into the Manhattan District and those who were leaving, and you can see that the sentiment very much was around secrecy in the service of the United States government. Of course, this did not prevent the project from being infiltrated by spies, and we'll talk a little bit more about espionage later in the course. Ultimately, of course, the work of all the scientists, all the engineers, all of the administrators, the military commanders, culminated on the morning of July 16th, 1945, in the Trinity test, the world's first nuclear weapons explosion. So what we've done with this segment is we've explored the origins of the Manhattan Project, and I hope now you have an understanding of the scale of the project, the structure of the project, how it was organized, and therefore what a very big job it would be to develop nuclear weapons today. Okay, so this is a big piece of this. What I don't want to get lost in the talk about mathematics or physics or engineering or in the talk about politics and international relations is the important dimension of the institutional, governmental, civil-military relations aspects of the Manhattan Project. If you want to build a bomb, it's a huge investment. It's a big investment of time, material, and people and money. And to do that today is just as daunting a task as it was back in the late 1930s and early 1940s. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you again soon.